Hey guys, how's it going? In today's video, we are going to be performing some soil tests, both here at our property, and I think we're going to go out to my parents and grab a soil sample there. They live 10 miles away from us, just to see what kind of differences we're dealing with. And I'm just really looking forward to this because I think getting a soil analysis done so that you know what areas you're good in nutrient-wise and what areas you're lacking, it can really improve your plant's health, and it lets you know what you need to be adding, because maybe you're adding some stuff in that you don't even need and so forth. So we are going to be using two different soil test kits from two different companies. I know nothing about these companies or the test kits. I've never used one before. They actually sent these out to us within like a couple weeks of each other. I opened them up in our mail time videos on our Garden Answer Highlights channel, and so I've had them sitting here for the last probably couple months and have been meaning to do this. So I want to show you the differences between the two test kits. We'll open up the boxes and take a look, and then we're going to run out and gather some samples. Okay, so right from the gate, you can just see the differences in packaging, which doesn't really matter. This one looks a little bit more retro. This one looks a little more flashy. This is the soilkit.com. This is the mysoiltesting.com. But they both operate the same. They send you this kit, you gather your sample, you send it back to them, and then they send you the results digitally. So like when we open this box up, first off, you see your kit registration. You do have to get on their website and register your kit. And that's how we keep track of everything. And then there's a prepaid envelope to send in your sample. And then it gives you instructions on what to do. So this has a vial of water right here, which you don't pour the water out. You add the soil into that. You go to either one of these websites and there are videos you can watch on how to take samples. And then if we open this box, same sort of thing. There's your registration paperwork. This is actually the bag that you put the soil in. So you send this soil in dry, that soil in this kit in that water. And then this is the prepaid envelope right here to send in your sample. And then there's a whole bunch of things. There's gloves. There's a little, I don't know, is this a measuring thing? Yeah. Oh, a rain gauge. I'm not sure if that's like an extra or what. And then there's a trowel. Now the cost of the basic kits are the same, $30. This one is $39 just because it comes with a trowel. That's the deluxe kit. You don't have to have that. If you just order the basic kit, it's $30, and basically it's the same thing as this. So this is just kind of like the optional thing, which just does feel fairly substantial. Like if you're needing a trowel, it's essentially a $10 trowel. So both of these kits, when you're watching the video on how to do it, which we'll link all that down below if you want to learn a little bit more, they recommend that you gather your soil sample from several different locations within the general area. So when we take our sample from the new property, we're going to grab like probably from 7 different areas, put it in a bucket, mix it together, and that's the sample we'll send in, instead of just from one individual spot in that area. You get just a better picture of what's going on if you gather from several. So we're going to mix up our sample of soil from the new property, and then we are going to use the same exact soil from the same bucket to send to both of these companies. And they should be identical results if that's what we're sending in. So we thought that that would be kind of a fun way to test these kits out. And then with the 3 other tests, I don't know if I already mentioned, I think we're going to take one from an area where our hydrangeas are struggling, but everything we've put in that flower bed has struggled. And then I think we're going to take one of them out to my parents' house, which they live 10 miles away from us. Be interesting to see the differences in soil from here to there. And then we're going to hang on to one for future use. And I'm really intrigued by this idea. I really hope, like, it seems super easy to do this and really inexpensive. I mean, $30 to get an overview of your soil and what you need to add. I mean, that can be invaluable, and it could really impact how your stuff does, because you'll know how to treat it and what the soil, like, we should be building the soil first before anything else, because that's what is directly related to the success of our plants. But up to this point, I just tell people, oh, take it to your, a soil sample to your extension office, which I know where mine is now. But for so long, I said those words to people and I had no idea where our extension office was, or how to properly collect a soil sample, or, what to ask for. It was just one of those things that just seemed like this, I don't know. It just makes it easy. Something you can order, it comes to your door, you ship it off, and then you get the results on your phone. I don't know, that's how Aaron and I operate, so it really speaks to me. So we're gonna go grab some soil now. All right, so Aaron has got the mixing bowl of sorts. Right. So he's gonna dig up the samples for us, and then we will bring them right back here and load up the boxes. Do you want the trowel?
Sure, yeah.
Came in handy already.
Should I wear the gloves?
If you want to be legit.
Check this out.
Those are the brightest gloves I've about ever seen.
Do they think you're going to be handling like...
Poop?
I wasn't going to say poop.
Oh, there's a pen and everything. I didn't unbox it that far.
Oh.
Bunch of goodies in that one.
All right.
New property. What 7 areas are you going to gather from?
I don't know. We'll just have to walk around.
All right. Are you supposed to dig down a certain amount?
Yeah, I think you don't want to take soil right off the surface.
Oh, sure. Like several inches down?
Yeah, good.
Yeah. There's 1. Got to leave room for 7. 7 bits of soil. Oh, look at this. Both of our cats. They're like dogs. They just follow us everywhere. Oh, today was not a good day to wear sandals. Powder dirt therapy. I think right here. Oh, I think I got a goat head on the bottom. Yep, a bunch of goat heads on the bottom of my shoe. Right here.
Well, it's pretty hard just after the powder layer.
Yeah. All right, so we've got the soil sample from the new property right here. 7 different locations, all mixed together as thoroughly as we could get it. And now we want to send a little sample of this to both companies to see what we get. So we have registered both samples already. That's the first step. Now for the mysoiltesting.com kit, we add 1 scoopful of soil into this water and then put it in here and send it out. You have to do that within 1 day. So we'll send it out tomorrow morning. And then for the soilkit.com, you fill the bag to the line and then put it in this prepaid envelope and send it off. It's really easy.
Yeah. Okay.
You want
ready?
to do the honors?
Yeah. Already getting it dirty.
Well, we
So
are
do
dealing
not-
with soil.
Do not remove the water.
Got that opened up. There's the water.
I
Oh, but
don't
what
know
is
what
that?
I don't know. Maybe don't touch it. I don't know. All right, so we'll take 1 scoop.
Oh my. That gets you right to the brim, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It kind of spilled a little bit on the outside, but that's all right.
And do you have to shake it or anything, or do you just leave it be?
Well, it'll shake in the mail.
That's
for
true.
sure.
There's your envelope.
All right. Padded. Okay.
Okay, that one's ready to go.
This one needs a lot more dirt
Yeah, it does.
and no water.
That'll be interesting. I'm intrigued.
Well, I think I got it to the line.
Almost.
A little more.
Maybe a tiny, yeah. So those are essentially ready to go. I don't want to seal them up quite yet. I want to make sure I've got my paperwork all squared away inside. So I'm going to double check that. We'll seal them up and we'll send them out tomorrow morning because it's evening right now. And then I'm going to run back and grab a new sample. I'll clean this out and I'm going to grab a sample from the hydrangea area. So these are the Firelight hydrangeas, which every year that we plant something in this flower bed, everything always looks fine. Like, they don't look fine, but they grow better on this side and then they increasingly get smaller and look worse. We planted these last spring and they kind of did the same thing. They have put on growth since then and they bloomed beautifully for a little bit and then they immediately turned brown. I think it's a water issue. We have a willow tree very nearby and they get hit with the sprinkler, which we have hard water, but I'm just not sure. So I think this is a really good area. I'll just grab soil from several different spots so we can see what's going on. You can see the back side of these hydrangeas do look better. That's why it might be a sprinkler thing. Like, there is a little burn on them, but not nearly as bad as toward this side and on the front. All right, now I'm going to mix it up really well. And then we'll add it into our little cup. Oh, it says right on the front that it contains a nutrient absorbing capsule and DI water. Okay, got the samples from our house. So the last sample we want to grab is from my parents' house. So we're gonna head out there this evening to do that. So we did make it out to my parents' house, so I'm gonna go grab some soil from just around this general area. And I chose this area right here because they do have a hydrangea macrophylla planted in there, or did, I can't remember if it's still there. But macrophylla hydrangeas will change color, their blooms will, based on soil pH. And theirs always have bloomed blue, which is like kind of weird for our area because we're typically so high pH that nothing ever blooms anything but pink in the realm of hydrangeas anyway. So let's go get some soil. Oh yeah, hydrangeas are still in there. Not looking super great. Dealing with some chlorosis. So yeah, this will be a good area. All right, got the soil sample all done and ready to send off in the morning. And we will be back as soon as we get all the results. All right, guys, so we received the results from all the soil samples we sent in, and I do have to say they were very prompt. We sent in the samples, it was just a matter of days. We received results. It's been a while since then because we didn't have a chance to really sit down and pour through all the results, and I really wanted to read everything thoroughly. I wanted to study a little bit too about each one of the nutrients and how they relate to plant health so I could share that information with you. I do have to say that with the one sample we sent in from the same batch of soil, we got very different results, which is very interesting. There are some reasons for that, so we'll go through that as we kind of come up on those differences. So let's just start with soilkit.com. So the very first thing I see at the top of the page is kind of the one thing we really wanted to know, which was soil pH. And it is showing an 8.1. which is on the high side. So let me explain the pH scale a little bit. It goes from 0 to 14, 7 is neutral, which is like plain water. When you're getting into the acidic side of things, a lemon kind of clocks in at a 2, I think. We've got a little chart here. Gastric acid clocks in at 1. And then when you're getting on the higher end, so the high pH category, the alkaline side, some people say alkaline, which I think is proper. We say alkaline here. So like a 12 here is bleach, just to give you kind of an idea of the scale here. When we're dealing with soil and growing things, like I am more experienced with the higher pH soil, and we usually are dealing with a scale anywhere from like 4 to 9 is what I have seen soil samples come back at for like an average home gardener. Now I can speak more to the high pH side because that's what I deal with rather than the more acidic side, low pH. So there's the pH scale. So ours clocked in from soilkit.com at 8.1, which is on the high side. And I tend to believe that. I mean, I knew that going in. You can kind of tell high pH soil because it usually dries really white. And I know that we've had other samples drawn in the area that have shown all the way up to like a 9.2, which is crazy high. And then it gets down into the specific elements or nutrients that your plants utilize. So you'll see this list here. Next to it, the next column is the abbreviation. So it's like when you see a fertilizer that's NPK, it's, you know, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, so that you can kind of like, I don't know, equate the two there. And then it shows our results in the next column and then the rating. So VH is where soilkit.com rated all of our elements at very high. And it shows that on the graph down below, which is kind of weird. Like that kind of looks a little bit too straight across the board to me when I saw that. I was like, well, I can kind of believe that our nutrients are high over there because, I mean, take our cut flower garden, for example. Usually when you're dealing with an annual crop, they don't really have enough time sitting there in the soil to start showing deficiencies. They usually have enough energy to make it through a season of growth and look pretty darn good, which is what we found out there, even though the soil pH is high. However, our new maple trees that we put in, we immediately started amending with soil acidifier because we know because of our high pH, the longer they sit out there, if we're not working on the soil, they will start to show iron deficiencies. Because all of these things, though they rate high, if you have a high soil pH, it binds up all those nutrients and makes them unavailable to the plant. So we know going in, we've got to kind of work on conditioning that soil down so that our permanent plantings will be healthy. Okay, so before we move on to the next test, I want to run through what each one of these elements means, like kind of how it helps plant growth. So let's start with the first couple here. Now there's kind of like macronutrients, which are your nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, your NPK. The rest of the ones we're going to talk about are micronutrients, which are used in a much smaller scale. You can see right away that this test does not give you a nitrogen rating, which I'll explain why it may not be as important as we think because it's a little bit up and down all the time. I'll explain a little bit more about that later. So phosphorus helps promote root growth and winter hardiness, and it also helps with fruit, seed, and nut production. The next one is potassium, which helps your stems grow really strong. It helps accelerate growth, and it also helps fight disease. And then moving on to our micronutrients, we're starting with magnesium, which helps with photosynthesis. It specifically helps with the production of chlorophyll, which helps maintain the nice deep green color in the leaves of our plants. Calcium helps with soil aeration and helping maintain pH in soil. A calcium deficiency, I guess, is really rare. And you have to kind of take into account, like, I don't know soil science like super well. I have the basics down for our area. So anyway, this is a learning experience for me too. Boron helps transport sugars in plants, and it's important for cell division and seed production. Zinc is the next one. It helps with root development, which means aiding with root growth and water absorption. Next is manganese, which is really interesting because I guess a deficiency of manganese appears a lot like an iron deficiency looks. So the yellowing of the leaves with the dark green veining. So sometimes you may have a manganese deficiency and you might think it's an iron deficiency. And so it's one of those things that a soil test could help in that case kind of rule out which one of those things it is. That brings me to iron, which is also important for photosynthesis and the production of chlorophyll, which helps your plant stay green. And when you get severe deficiencies both with iron or manganese, they will really start to yellow, and then they'll start to burn on the edges, and they'll eventually drop their leaves. We have a tree doing it right now in our garden. We were actually thankful for fall to roll around for all of its leaves just to drop so we didn't have to look at it anymore, and we will be addressing the problem this next spring. The last one on the list is copper, which helps with plant respiration and photosynthesis and is important for plant metabolism. So there you go. The second part of the soilkit.com test that they sent over was kind of a game plan. Like, here is what you should be doing based on the results that we found in your soil. So the first section is here's what you will need. 4 bags of Espoma organic fertilizer, which is so funny because I don't know if they know that we use Espoma. We contacted Espoma and said, like, do you guys have any affiliation with this company? And they said, well, we've heard of the company, but we don't work together in any way. So I thought that was really interesting because I'm so familiar with Espoma fertilizers. It kind of made me like, I believe in those fertilizers. They've worked really well for us. So anyway, and then they give you like a here's how much to use based on 10,000 square feet, like a rate application, and then treatment recommendations there. And we did get a follow-up email though from the company, and I don't know if that's normal, but they did say because of our high pH, they recommended us using Espoma's soil acidifier, which we just had done. And you know, I feel like that is something that should be included on the test. And maybe if they find something like that, they'd go ahead and follow up with the customer on those things. But I think that that's almost more important than putting these fertilizers down. I mean, fertilizer is all well and good, but if you aren't working on the actual structure of your soil by bringing that pH down, it's going to be a quick shot of food, and then there won't be anything left in the soil. So we're just going to be working on that pH. So moving on to the second test. Now this is the one we sent in the water capsules. So the first one, the soilkit.com, was it was dry. Just dry dirt in a little bag that you sent off. This one you put the dirt in a little water thing. The results are crazy different. So you can see just the graph alone, like first glance, the graphs are so different. It's showing like super low nitrogen, super low iron, like no zinc, while this one says high zinc, it says high iron. And then when we get to the raw soil data here on the right-hand side, the first result is our pH, and it says 7.65. Same soil sample. One says 8.1, one says 7.65. And when you're talking soil pH, that's wildly different. I mean, it might seem close, 7.65 versus 8.1, but when you're dealing with such a small scale on that pH scale, it's tremendously different, and plants react so much differently. Plants usually err on the side of growing better in more acidic to neutral conditions anyway. There are a few varieties that like alkaline soil, which those are the type I usually gravitate toward. But the higher you get, the more alkaline you get, the higher pH you get, the more your plants will struggle and show deficiencies. Moving on down that raw soil data, it tested everything exactly the same as SoilKit.com, except for it did add 5 extra nutrients that SoilKit.com did not test for. The first was nitrogen, which, like I said earlier, may not be like super important just because nitrogen is incredibly unstable in the soil. In fact, we reached out to our local experiment station rather. They do extensive testing for soil crops. They actually have fields of production where they actually come up with new cultivars of plants. Anyway, he helped us. He broke down some of the things that could be why there's differences. And in terms of nitrogen, he said nitrogen levels are really unstable in the soil, so reporting them is somewhat useless. Which kind of makes me I kind of believe that, because that's something that we continually have to add in. Because today you might have high nitrogen levels, but you might get massive rainstorm for a week or whatever, and it pushes some of that nitrogen out, and then it's something that you have to readdress. So nitrogen does help with green leafy growth and production of chlorophyll in your plant. So basically it helps your plants to grow instead of stay stunted and then have a nice color. The other 4 are micronutrients. The first is nitrates, which are an important source of iron that's actually available to your plants. Ammonium is a source of nitrogen for plants. Sulfur helps with photosynthesis, winter hardiness, also helps form proteins, enzymes, vitamins, and chlorophyll. And the last one is sodium, which aids in metabolism and synthesis of chlorophyll. So those are the results from that one soil sample we sent out from the new property. And when we first got them in, I was thinking, what in the world? Why are these so different? And how am I supposed to interpret this? Which one is right? And I do think that there are several things that can play into differences in a test result. One of the things might be if the soil sample wasn't mixed properly, which I feel like our soil is so powdery and it was so easy to mix. I mean, it's possible, but if there's a clump of organic matter in there that made it into one test and not the other, that can throw the results a tiny bit. Usually it's fairly trivial. The amount of time that elapsed from when you gathered the sample to when the lab got it and ran the test, that can give you a little bit of different results. Again, very trivial. And we got ours fast. We sent ours out on the same day. We got results within days of each other. So I'm not thinking that had a lot to do with it. Also, testing methods. I didn't realize that there are several different methods labs use to test soil. So, for example, one of ours went in dry and the other one went in water. And so I'm guessing that those were tested differently based on that alone. And I do think, too, you need to look at the test results and know how they're reporting. So if they're reporting parts per million or pounds per acre, this is all stuff I'm learning just through these tests. I didn't realize there was so many different variables. So to me, the solution is probably easier than all of this looks. It can be intimidating to look at charts like this and look at all of these different nutrients, and who knows? I think one thing that's lacking on both of these, they should put a little explanation of what each one of these things means to the health of your plant. It's probably on their website, but I think it should be on the test results so it's easy to find. But I think it's a lot easier than focusing on all that. I think that the solutions are, just working on your soil health, leaf mulch, adding compost into your soil. If you don't know what's going on, talk to gardeners in your area. We tend to glom together, and we can really glean a lot of information from each other, especially people who've gardened in your area for a long time. It's likely they've dealt with deficiencies and they know how to maybe set you on the right track to rectify those things. Talk to somebody at your local garden center if you've got a reputable one. I remember when I worked down at the garden center, we would get people in daily bringing in samples of plants showing some kind of a deficiency. And I knew, based on our area and what we typically dealt with here, what to tell them they were dealing with, and I would show them the right amendments to use in your soil. So if you're not sure what amendments to be adding in, ask, seasoned gardeners, ask somebody at your local garden center. So that is the end of this video. I really wish I could be more conclusive in all of my findings here. Really quick though, kind of not the end of the video, we did take other soil samples with the MySoil testing.com. We took one from the area by the hydrangeas by the barn, and that one resulted in a pH of 7. So it actually resulted in a pH 0.65 lower, which makes sense because we had added soil acidifier this spring. I thought that was really interesting. We have hydrangeas there that have struggled, and we didn't really know what was going on, and it was really encouraging for me to see that, these soil samples went to the same company, so it was the same testing method. To know that that area is actually getting better was awesome. And then we went out to my parents' house and also took a test out there because they actually have an area where their hydrangeas will bloom blue, which is unheard of in our area, and their pH clocked in at 6.67. So they're more on the acidic side in that one location anyway. And they've always had a really good luck. You can tell by the look of their garden, they don't deal with some of the same issues that even we deal with here, 10 miles away. So I thought that was interesting. Anyway, now that's the end of the video. Wish I could give you more conclusive information, but I hope it was helpful just to learn about some of these nutrients, how they help your plants, and then just some of the simple things you can do to start helping your soil. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.